real quick before the video starts, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can unsub at any time. In addition, if you are subbed and want to stay up to date, don't forget to hit the bell, and please think about leaving a like down below. And comment, too. There is a reason that question of the day exists. And finally, if you want to go above and beyond, feel free to check out the membership on my channel. You get special perks like members-only live streams and members-only content, so do please consider that. Anyways, hope you all enjoy the video! What's up, YouTube? My name is Ghrei, and today I've got a brand new kind of video for the turning point of this channel. I've watched countless Moscow X videos over the years, but I think it's finally time for me to give it a shot myself. Without any further distractions, let's dive right into this. This video series will cover the idea of Deku/Midoriya having a quirk naturally in My Hero Academia. One might think that a good place to start this discussion would be to explain his quirk, and they'd probably be right. But me? I think we need to set the scene. Give the full story of Midoriya, as it is in this reality. So, without further ado, let us dive into this alternate timeline. As a kid, Midoriya constantly watched All Might's endeavors, a smile on his face, hope in the crowd, and countless amazing feats under his belt. Midoriya dreamed of becoming the world's greatest hero, and wouldn't stop rewatching the news footage from one of All Might's rescue missions, in particular, his debut. He carried several people out at once, saved hundreds of lives, smiling and laughing, reassuring the crowd around the blazing wreckage that it'd all be okay. When he went in to have his quirk evaluated around the age of 4, Midoriya was met with less than stellar news.
I'm afraid Midoriya's quirk is either not developed or it isn't there to begin with.
Midoriya begins to panic here, and the doctor quickly adds,
The good news is that his pinky toe has only one joint, so the most likely scenario is that Midoriya here is simply a late bloomer, coming every month or so to allow us to evaluate any possible quirk developments.
After that day, Midoriya made sure to drag his mom to the appointments on time and every single month, triple-checking to be certain that she had scheduled the next appointment plenty of time in advance. This became his new ritual, alongside watching All Might's debut on loop. After about a year of waiting, Midoriya finally showed signs of a quirk. Small wisps of a green steam-like gas lightly emanating from his body after one particularly tiring day of playing and trying to defend someone from Bakugo and his cronies, excluding the latter information when describing it to his mom. Midoriya's mom rushed him to the doctor's office that afternoon, and they got there before he finished emitting that green gaseous substance. Over the next 2 or 3 days, Midoriya and his mother were granted a spot in the hospital so that the doctors could run some tests to determine exactly what Midoriya's quirk was. After extensive research and a long rest from Midoriya, he and his mother were released and sat down for a meeting with his doctor.
Well, it appears Midoriya has an interesting quirk. It seems as though it's a hybrid of his father's and yours, with a few added details, or mutations if you'd rather call them that. We've deemed his quirk Will-O-Wisp, and it appears to function by allowing Midoriya to produce small spheres of flame, enveloped with an odd sort of gaseous substance. We've been unable to identify anything similar to it, so we've deemed it a specific mutation of you and his father's quirks combining. And despite all attempts, he seems to be the only one able to interact with these spheres as though they were solid. We've also discovered that he can control the size of these at the cost of more stamina being used to summon larger orbs, and if he doesn't interact with them, they stay floating in the air. Finally, when they make contact with another being, they do nothing if the gas is still surrounding the spheres. However, when making contact with an individual or object, if they make it past the initial barrier of quote-unquote steam, it will make the orb explode like a small fireball. Midoriya is able to disperse these at will, so don't worry too much about these spheres randomly floating around. I'm sure Midoriya here will be more than capable of cleaning them up. There is one last thing. We still don't know why Midoriya is capable of not only interacting with these as though they were solid, but not triggering an explosion like any others who make it past the initial gaseous film over them. I would say experiment with this power a little bit in a safe and secure place, and come back if you make any new discoveries about how this power functions. I believe that's everything. And Mrs. Midoriya, please do not worry about the bill. I believe your son's enjoyment is more than enough pay for this trip.
After heading home, both family members being jubilant about that visit, Midoriya immediately went outside to play with his Quirk. He thoroughly enjoyed playing with his wisps and decided to show them off in school the next day. He thought it may even bring an end to the bullying of Bakugo and his crew. How wrong he was.
That's your Quirk, and after a year of waiting too? That's so pathetic, Deku. You can't even hit people with it. Nobody would be dumb enough to walk into one, and you can't throw them far at all. You might as well have stayed Quirkless, Deku.
The cluster of children laughed incessantly, and Midoriya became ashamed and downtrodden. He never used his Quirk in school unless he absolutely had to, but always practiced at home, trying to figure out more about it to no avail. Something in him kept him going after his dream, though. Despite not having a flashy or useful Quirk, he still had a burning desire to become the #1 hero. By the time he made it to the final year of middle school, he was able to make a wisp a little bigger than a basketball a couple of times before he was spent. However, despite his growth and advancements with his Quirk, when Bakugo learned of Midoriya trying to join UA next to him, he became a great deal more upset than in the original. Oh god, I can't do a Bakugo impression for the life of me.
You really think you can get into UA, Deku? It's pointless! Your Quirk is so useless that you might as well go without one! And those pathetic little gas clouds of yours couldn't hold a candle to what I've got!
After that, the proceedings are the same as the original, for a while. Midoriya fishes his journal out of the pond and walks home, being attacked by the sludge villain erupting from the sewers. As he feels his life ebb away, he considers, for just a moment, using his Quirk to try and escape, before remembering how everyone claimed it was useless and how he might as well not have one. He had nearly given up when out of nowhere, two figures erupted from the sewers, performing a double smash attack on the sludge villain. Barely conscious, Midoriya looks up to see All Might and someone brand new? He has a similar posture and smile as All Might, and after processing what happened, Midoriya shakily offers his notebook to All Might for an autograph. All Might immediately obliges, and the newcomer introduces himself as Lemillion, as All Might cleans up the sludge villain. Sorry you had to get involved in this chase. Me and All Might were trying to keep him from interacting with any civilians for obvious reasons. You may have already guessed, but I'm All Might's sidekick. I have to ask you to keep the fact that I exist hush-hush for a while, okay? Midoriya nods slowly, regaining his composure slightly. Lemillion continues. You know my name, but I don't know yours. Midoriya blinks before responding with his name, albeit a bit shakily. Midoriya, huh? Nice to meet ya. Hope you have a good day. We've got to get going. Before they can run away, Midoriya grabs onto Lemillion's cape. Lemillion turns around, puzzled, and All Might sighs, waiting for his partner. Midoriya, with tears in his eyes and after seconds of silence, finally builds up the courage to ask what he needs to ask. I have a really underwhelming Quirk. It isn't really practical or useful, and I'm afraid I can't properly apply it, but I want to be a hero. I signed up to go to UA and everything, but I'm having second thoughts. Lemillion asks to see Midoriya's Quirk, and he obliges, summoning forth a baseball-sized wisp, while briefly describing what he was told by his doctor so many years ago. Lemillion looks pensively at it for a few seconds before breaking into raucous laughter. Midoriya feels disheartened and more than a little hurt, but is taken aback at what Lemillion says next. Of course you can become a hero with your Quirk. You just need to apply it creatively. I can see your determination, and I support you 101%. In fact, Lemillion turns to All Might, who immediately smiles and shakes his head before saying,
If you can handle a protege while being my protege, then by all means go ahead, Lemillion.
With the sparkle in his eyes, Lemillion turns back to Midoriya. I can help you develop your Quirk and come up with new ways to apply it. I can also help you get on a training regimen for the entrance exams at UA because they're, quite frankly, insanely brutal. What do you say? Want to have All Might's secret sidekick as a tutor? Before Midoriya has a chance to respond, Lemillion decides to sweeten the deal. I may even be able to get All Might to show up at some point. At that, Midoriya agrees vigorously, and Lemillion grins even wider than before. Suddenly, All Might coughs and elbows Lemillion. Oop, we gotta go. Meet me at the Dagobah Park with all that trash around 1 p.m. tomorrow. See you there. With that, the pair bolted away together and Midoriya was left excited and determined to train and pass the entrance exams. One quick thing I should mention before we continue is that the second sludge villain attack never occurs. With Lemillion helping All Might, he'd ensure the villain couldn't escape. As Midoriya arrives on the beach, Lemillion lays out his plan. I want you to clean up this part of the beach before the entrance exam, Lemillion exclaims, prompting an appropriate jaw drop from Midoriya.
What? All this stuff? There's so much? I can't even use my quirk to—
I'll stop you right there, says Lemillion. The whole point of this is to make your body and your quirk stronger, and for us to figure out how to use your quirk. See, I had to do something similar when I was learning about mine. Take a look at this. Lemillion passes a hand through a nearby heap of trash, showing off his permeation. I can pass through anything at all, and everything passes through me while my quirk is active.
That's an amazing quirk. You must be so lucky to have—
That includes air, light, and everything else. I can't see when I activate my quirk on my eyes, and I can't breathe because oxygen just passes through my lungs. This gives Midoriya pause. See, my quirk was considered to be more of a hindrance to me than anything else. One wrong move and I can be split in half. But I made it into something that's my own and learned to use it properly. Like— Lemillion took a deep breath, then phased through the ground. Midoriya looked around confusedly before seeing Lemillion rocket up and pose midair, grinning widely and landing in a showy pose. When I let myself sink into the ground and turn off my quirk, I shoot out of the ground at super high speeds. This gives me a massive edge in combat when it comes to both speed and power, and despite it taking a whole lot of control, I've gotten the hang of it and can do it mostly on muscle memory now. And I want to do something similar with you, Midoriya. I want to help you figure out how you can use your quirk effectively and get you into tip-top shape while we're at it. You're so wiry, it looks like you haven't exercised a day in your life. Midoriya looks away, a little embarrassed before turning back to Lemillion with an inquisitive stare.
I know the physical exercises will work, but what could I possibly use my quirk for? The orbs just hang in the air unless I interact with them. I guess I could throw them, but it doesn't do much. Even with a good throwing arm, it won't be very easy to hit anyone.
Lemillion, looking thoughtful, suddenly snaps and startles Midoriya. You said not even the doctors knew why you could mess with your wisps like they were solid objects, right? Why don't we figure out how you're able to do that and take it from there? I'm sure there's something we can use from that answer. I know we can figure it out. Midoriya takes a shaky breath and smiles, looking up at Lemillion with newfound determination. If there's a chance, I'll take it. I want to become the best hero. Lemillion grins even wider at this before saying, let's get to work then. Over the next several months, Midoriya's physical training is much the same as the original. He even states that he needs to work harder than anyone else because he can't rely on just his quirk when confronted about overworking himself, and manages to discover something about his quirk with Lemillion. Remember how his quirk first awakened? Those wisps of smoke after a lot of effort was put in? Well, on a particularly tough training day, the same thing happens while he summoned a few wisps, and Lemillion blinks. Hey, are you making the same stuff on your body as the stuff around these wisps? That gassy stuff? Midoriya nods. It's mainly after I do a lot of physical activity. Slowly, Lemillion looks between the gas emitting from Midoriya's pores and his wisps, and he pieces it together. Maybe you can only interact with these wisps because you're constantly making the same gas they're enveloped in? Midoriya looks pensive when he hears this. Lemillion suggests, try hitting a wisp when emitting gas out of your hand. Make it more concentrated if you can. Midoriya obliges, and after a few minutes of struggling, manages to make gas emit from his hand relatively consistently. The moment Midoriya hits one of his wisps with his steaming hand, it shoots away at a relatively fast speed, about the speed of a baseball pitch, before exploding against a small mound of garbage across the beach. I'd say that was an improvement, Lemillion states, smiling broadly as he turns to look at Midoriya. Now it's time to get creative. And that's where we're going to wrap this up for today. Did you guys enjoy it? I apologize for bad voice acting, but a lot of the characters from the My Hero Academia anime in the dub don't exactly have the most unique voices, but I tried my best. If you did enjoy this video, please spread this vid around and don't forget to subscribe and slap that bell to keep up to date with this series. Thank you guys so much for watching and staying with me through this massive change. I feel so good about this video, and I hope it shows. And tell me, what do you guys think? Do you think Midoriya is gonna find an awesome new way to use his power for the exams? Do you think Mirio's still gonna be his tutor after he gets into UA, or is it going to be cut off there? Get a discussion going in the comment section down below, and we will see all of y'all beautiful people in the next episode.